professional punk rocker.
Oh, cool. Can you tell about your band? Or bands, various bands?
I don't know. I don't want to say what the band is,
No,
because
that's fine.
they'll all look it up and go, Jesus Christ.
Well, I'm a Christian, so I'm on the narrow path and hopefully follow the teachings of our Lord.
I'm just wandering around town photographing Edinburgh. It's a really nice day.
I'm going to Kebab Mahal to pick up a curry in Nicholson Square.
Can I ask, is that your go-to place?
No, it's the first time I've been there in a long time, but I know they're good.
Where do you normally go?
I don't have that many takeaways. I just fancied one tonight.
What is it you've ordered?
I have ordered a lamb boona, a peshwari naan, and pita rice.
We're just coming up to see what Edinburgh's like, because there's nothing really to do, so we're just seeing the city.
And I've never been here before, so I was like, oh, I need to come and see it. Of course.
Just to come see it, really.
Just sightseeing.
I've literally been out walking my dog. I gave the dog to my wife, and I came because I had to get something for my hair, because in this lockdown I've had 3 haircuts in a year, and I need something that controls this hair.
What's up with your hair? Is it
It's a bit curly and a bit frizzy if you leave it to grow by itself.
Well, we're just out for a walk. We got some hot chocolate in the meadows. It's nice. Yeah.
Just ask where you're going, please.
Home.
That's where you've come from.
Home.
What led you to the punk rock lifestyle?
I don't know. Well, first of all, the music, and then I suppose it all kind of made sense with the outlook on the world. Made sense to me, and here I am many decades later, and it still makes sense to me. More sense than anything else, actually, sometimes.
Can I ask, other than the music, what do you feel is punk rock about your lifestyle?
I think thinking for yourself, questioning things. I mean, not all punk leads to this, but having some sort of compassion for the world, caring about the state of the world, caring about injustice. It's all sort of stuff punk taught me, you might say, Crass in particular.
Have you always been religious? Have you always?
Not always, no.
Was there some? Do you mind if I ask if there was some sort of event that led you to lead a religious life?
No, it's just what happened was the Lord came into my life and I started reading the Bible, and it went on from there. Changed my life. Yeah.
Well, at the moment I am doing a TEFL course, studying English as a foreign language, but other things in the past.
Can I ask what you've done previously?
I was a divorce solicitor for 12 years or so, and then I worked in a drug and alcohol treatment centre for 10 years, helping people get back on their feet, and then I became a nurse.
Mixing households, because I'm alone at the moment. I just moved over from Spain, so.
Oh, I see. Did you grow up in Spain?
No, I grew up here. I went to school, boarding school for a
Oh, I
while.
see, cool.
That's a complicated one.
It's not, you can't just answer with a yes or no.
I moved all around the world as a child, and then settled in Edinburgh, and then moved to Dunbar, and lived in Dunbar for about 20 years.
Yep.
And then came back here.
So, out of all the places that you lived, where would you say was the one you enjoyed the most? Bar in Edinburgh.
Oh, bar in Edinburgh.
Yeah.
Dunbar.
Dunbar or Bristol?
Well, Bristol's nice, isn't it? London was good.
Different
Things for different times of your life. Dunbar was excellent for, like, we raised children there. But London was good for parties, and Bristol was good for parties.
I live in Arbroath.
And have you lived in Arbroath for a long time?
No, 2 years just. Otherwise, it's up in Isla Lewis, lived outside Stornoway.
Oh, grand. Yeah, excellent. Can I ask, have you ever lived in Edinburgh before?
Several years ago, yes. Yes.
How would you say? Do you mind if I ask like roughly what years they were?
Late 90s, probably. Yeah.
How would you say the city's changed in that time?
I haven't really had time to. I haven't really had time to really have a good look round, but I notice that's why I'm going up to Princess Street. Well, because of the tram, that's all new, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I study literature. Yeah,
And yourself?
I do biology.
Can I ask where you both? You said that you grew up in Denmark. Can I ask where you both grew up and how it was?
Well, I grew up in New York, so a million miles away. It feels like, especially this year. Totally different city vibes. It's much grosser, lots busier, noisier. Edinburgh's super fancy and nice, so we can hear a lot.
Yourself?
Yeah, and I grew up in Copenhagen, and it's pretty much the same in it as Edinburgh in some ways, but yeah.
What would you say is the difference between Copenhagen and Edinburgh?
I don't know yet. I just came out of isolation, so I just seen the city today. So it's a lot flat in Copenhagen, but yeah.
Is photography your full-time job?
It was at one point. I did wedding photography, but not so much recently.
How come did you stop due to COVID, or was it before that?
No, I actually got another job, so I didn't have as much time. But I kind of do wedding photography when I can. So yeah.
Do you mind if I ask what you do now for a full-time job?
I work for Historic Environment Scotland. It's part of the National Collection of Aerial Photography, so it's digitising images from the war. So it's more imaging than photography, but it's using the same sort of techniques.
Were you raised in Edinburgh?
No,
May I ask where you were raised?
Motherwell.
You see, you don't say it. You don't say Motherwell like they say Motherwell.
No, I don't. But I've lived in London for over 20 years. So if you have to go away, you have to speak in a way where the natives can understand you.
That's what you've done in London.
I ran a business. So
Do you mind if I ask what that was?
it's a consulting business.
Do you have either of you have any creative pursuits?
Well, I'm starting an art class on Tuesday. It's virtual, which is really disappointing with the new lockout, but I'm still pretty excited. Yeah. And I write a lot, but yeah.
Can I ask what kind of subjects you tackle in your writing?
I think mostly feelings and stuff like that, yeah. Do you write like poetry or prose? Prose mostly, but like a mix.
I can ask who you find most inspiring as an author?
Oh, oh, that's a difficult one. I don't know.
Or maybe just some influences, not specifically this is the most inspiring person, but maybe just some influences on your
I
life.
have like one of my favorite authors is Sylvia Plath. Yeah, it's gonna see. Yeah, she's amazing. I have a bunch of her books. Oh, I should borrow. Yeah.
I can't remember. Did she maybe kill herself? I can't remember. Or she was mentally ill quite a bit.
Yeah, I think she killed herself. Like mostly all feminist authors at that time. Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's real hard to be a feminist. Yeah. What is it? 60s, I think. Yeah. Yeah.
What do you think? What do you think is the greatest injustice in the world right now?
Probably just basically inequality, you know, and everything that brings. There's many things, unfortunately.
What do you think is a feasible solution to that right now?
I don't know if there is one, to be honest. I mean, I would generally say some form of revolution, but you know, revolutions that tend to involve quite a lot of bloodshed, and I don't know if I'm hugely keen on that. I don't know. Sometimes I feel there is no real answer. everything's going in the opposite direction, sadly.
Life's too short. Got to try as many avenues as you can.
And what made you move back up?
I've retired from full-time employment.
And you weren't tempted by the sight of London just to stay there or stay in the outskirts of London?
Yeah, yeah,
And did you do that or?
yeah.
Yeah. Did you run a consultant business your entire life?
Well, I worked in it before I ran it. Yeah, it tends to be a qualification process to get the top job.
And have you lived in Edinburgh most of your life? Or?
No, on and off. No, my dad was an air traffic controller at Heathrow. Brought up southwest London. Came up to Edinburgh when I was about 40 to train to be a nurse. And then I went back to Cornwall, lived in Cornwall for a while, and now I'm back here.
And what made you leave southwest London?
Initially, just experimenting with life, moving away. Yep.
See, when you were both children, what was it you wanted to do?
I wanted to be a farmer.
I wanted to be a squirrel keeper.
A squirrel keeper, you did, didn't you?
Is that still a thing? A squirrel keeper? Is that?
Was it ever a thing?
I think I like the idea of doing things with animals, mostly locked in cages.
That sounds really wrong.
I'm just struggling with, like, even though we've obviously been in lockdown before and that, I just think it's still pure different for me. I can't get used to it at all, and I just want my life back. So it's difficult. I feel like I'm climbing the walls. Like, it's just
Definitely.
I just want everything to be back the way it is, but obviously you don't know if it is ever going to be.
It's
back
so
there.
strange.
I know it's very weird, and just like not being able to see your family and stuff as well. It's pure heartbreaking, and obviously like, so many people are unwell and dying and stuff. So it's tragic, but you just want to go on. Agreed.
What's the most conventional job you've had?
A waiter at one point for a day.
What was it? Was that just an event? Was it?
It was at the Open Golf Championship.
You hit the golf?
No, I hate golf.
What I wanted to do as a child, other than play for Motherwell, see, I probably sounded more like I came from Motherwell. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I guess you only learn that when you get out and you see the world, go to university and see the opportunities that are available.
How do you feel about the current wave of feminism?
I'm pretty hopeful. The one thing that's really discouraging is like trans exclusionary feminism. I think that the main hurdle for feminism right now is becoming more intersectional, and that includes like gender rights, sexuality, politics, and stuff like accepting that like racism and sexism go hand in hand a lot, and classism, etc., etc.
Do you have anything to say about that?
I agree.
How do you feel about do you think there's a gulf between the average person and academics?
That's really a good question. I don't understand the question.
Do you think there's a sort of gulf between the average person on the street and people in academia?
Yeah, I think, as in like, is it hard to like bridge the gap between like,
Yeah. Okay.
in universities and academics and like
Yeah.
many regular people? Yeah. I think there's a lot of elitism that comes with higher education. Like, I'm doing my PhD right now, and I know that's like an extremely privileged situation to be in. I'm really grateful for that. And I know that it's not accessible for everybody. So I'm trying to think about that, especially like if I'm taking stuff for granted as well, because it's easy to do that. You have to check your privilege. But yeah, I think a lot of times there's like a lack of especially with the like pandemic, this like scientific knowledge that is coming out but isn't able to be conveyed in an accessible way, and so then people, there's definitely like a wall or like you said, a gulf between like the like science that's happening, but also like people's ability to engage with it and then make their own educated decisions. Because like the average person is not stupid, but if they don't have a way that they can actually access information, then it's kind of hard for them to like figure out, is it fake news or is it, you know.
How do you feel that gulf or that sort of wall could be tackled? How do you think that is there a way that you could see it being overcome? And if there is, how do you think it should happen?
That's difficult. That's really hard. Yeah. I think just like clarity from leadership. I really admired Nicola Sturgeon as a leader in this time, particularly in comparison to others. But like Angela Merkel, she's a scientist first and now is a politician. So I think more sort of like cross communication would help.
Can I ask, have you ever been in a situation where you witnessed some poetic justice?
Some
Poetic justice.
poetic justice. I'm convinced I've been in many. In many situations where you've seen carve my heart. But yeah, the simple answer is yes.
Do you mind telling me about any of these
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, okay, that's fine.
I don't want to be sued.
Of course. Yeah, no, of course.
My sister's a nurse, and in COVID she was really great. And also I want to do a bridge course and become a doctor, but studying nursing is a cheaper way to do it because you get a bursary, so you don't have to pay back your student loan, whereas if you're studying to be a doctor you don't. So.
Can I ask you, what was the most pivotal part of your life?
Meeting, that changed everything.
Can I ask where you met?
Where did we meet? London. London, yeah, London. Finnish, yeah. A pub in Finnish.
What was that? Was that a party or something?
It was, yes, it was on the way to a party, yeah. We were both at the same time.
What was it you were doing down in London at the time?
Party. I went to London for the party.
And I was not working. I should have been working.
I was born in Glasgow and I grew up in South Queensferry. You know, it's just outside, and but then I moved to Edinburgh about 10, 11 years ago.
Do you still go out to South Queensferry to take photos?
Yeah, the bridges and that sometimes, but not so much recently. But I used to do that a lot. That's some of the first things I photographed when I was doing landscape photography. So.
Going forward, I think like ourselves to Scotland and we need to be independent. I think that's my view.
Scotland as a whole, I think
Aye.
we're doing quite well, and see the way Nicola Sturgeon's been dealing with, and I think she's done the best she can. But see, like the UK as a whole, don't even get me started. Like we could have done so many different things at the beginning, but it's not even as if it's just one person's fault. It's like everybody had like kind of put their heads in at the very start. It's hard, but you know what I mean, like because I feel like we had no direction really.
I know.
Well, it's not looking too great. Me and my partner have actually looked at moving to Norway, kind of a new start somewhere else, just for because things aren't looking too great. So yeah.
What attracted you to Norway?
I went there the last 2 Christmases and to see the Northern Lights and just like fell in love with it that way, and we got a friend over there, so there's kind of a few opportunities over there for work and accommodations.
Are you far in that process or just a thought just now?
It's just, I'd say more than a pipe dream, but it's still, I thought, probably a couple of years off yet. We'll have to see what happens with Brexit and stuff. So.
I left Cornwall 6 months ago because I don't want to be a part of Boris Johnson's government. So I moved up to Scotland. I'm taking it I lived here before, but I want to be a part of Scotland. So I think the UK government is on a small-minded, isolating looking world where I just didn't want to live, and I much prefer just the general outlook in Scotland that with a bit of imagination I think there is a better future, and that's why I moved up and left all my friends.
Do you think that there's an appetite for a lot of other people in parts of England to move up to Scotland?
I don't think so. I think most people are happy where they want to be, but I have a little nut inside of me that is quite political, and I just think this is where my future would be.
So I'm very sad that we left the European Union. I think it was an unfortunate step. I think it marks a change in the politics that we're experiencing. I think that sadly, I think Scotland might do the same thing. It's the way it feels, that's the drumbeat here. I think that would be another mistake. I think that the world is becoming, and certainly through my career in business, the world is becoming more borderless, and the last thing we need is to fragment it into smaller and smaller pieces, because people are people the world over. And they actually want to work together, and they want to make things happen together, and politics is not the most important thing in that.
I might throw a snowball at your camera, actually.
Where was the nicest place that you lived? Going to say you enjoyed the most?
I love New York, it's a great city. I love San Francisco, it's a great city. And for different reasons, I love Rome and Paris and Munich, they're fabulous cities.
Did you live in these places for kind of short periods?
Short periods, yeah. I lived in Chicago for a longer period, which is probably a less remarkable city, but it's a good fun city. It actually reminds me a lot of Glasgow.
What's your fondest memory of living outside of the UK?
Fondest memory? Well, the most memorable thing is a Chicago winter is like nothing you've ever experienced. It's the only time when you get headaches from walking outside without a hat on. It's where I first bought my first hat. The best experiences are always to do with people and the environment, and the things you do as opposed to the things you see, I guess.
Is there any other country that you visited where you could see yourself living?
Oh yes.
Do you mind telling me about those?
Well, I've got a list. Top of the list, well, Mexico, South America, countries that are anywhere in Europe. Just an outlook that is all inclusive.
I think that all of this has kind of pushed a lot of people to like kind of take a last chance. I think not a last chance, but like take a
just be more great.
Be more spontaneous and stuff like
Take their
that.
chances, like
Yeah.
whenever there's chances, just take them and stuff.
Because like I feel like I've had so much like stripped away from me that I just want to go out and do everything now. Like you will never catch me lying in my bed again.
Never again.
I know.
It does, it makes you more motivated.
At first I was like, I can't see that I'm into all this like coronavirus stuff and that, but now I'm just like, come on, like I can't wait until it's over because I just want to live my life.
Yeah,
and go out and actually see places and do things like we're
promoted
day to day, you know. So.
Well, my mum worked at the school, so I wasn't boarding there. It was a boarding school. We moved to Spain because she got offered a job there, so I could go for free. And she's South African, so she was missing the sun.
She was missing the sun, right?
Yeah.
Excellent. And did you go to a more normal school previously?
Yeah, so my mum's worked in private schools most of my life, so I've usually been in them. One of them went bankrupt and she moved me out to a state school, which I actually found a lot more fun because more people to interact with. Most of the time I've grown up with like 5 or 6 people in my entire year group, so.
Yeah, totally. How do you think you told me it was a bit more fun. How do you find Did you find it more overwhelming, or did
Oh
you?
yeah, completely. It was hard for about a year, but once you get settled in, so many more people to make friends with.
Did you feel as though maybe you had a better connection with the folk that knew in the state school?
Yeah, definitely, because you can choose people to be friends with rather than being stuck with them. I found very quickly after I moved that you're not really real friends. You've just been forced into a situation where you adapt to each other.
My course, it's in Denmark, so I don't know how it is here, but like we're almost only white people in my whole class, and like sitting and discussing like racism and post-colonial things. It's really, yeah, that's something we talk a lot about, like it's a problem in itself. Yeah, I read about I'm gonna forget his name. He had an article in the Guardian about the Rhodes Scholarship, and he's a professor at Oxford, but grew up in Zimbabwe, where Rhodes like basically was behind. Exactly, like it's named after him. The colonial atrocities were literally in his name, and yet he's come to Oxford to sort of like be like. So everyone in his department is white, and everyone around him is white, and yet they're saying these things that, of course, like they want to take the Rhodes statue down because like they're trying to reconcile with this history, but they're still part of it, and they're still like he's directly benefiting from the Rhodes Scholarship, even though there's like this huge like colonial past where like the government forces actually like murdered his grandfather. So like this conflict between being in a system that you really just do not agree with the origins of it, and how are you supposed to navigate the boundaries of like how much do I participate, how much can I criticize this, how much am I complicit, is really difficult, I think. Yeah. And it must like it's just, I don't know, I think a real challenge that we're coming up across like this year, especially with the Black Lives Matter protests and the taking down of the statues and all kinds of things, trying to reconcile that.
Oh, I think nothing will really be the same.
I don't think it'll be the same ever. Like I think, like see how like you usually go up like in a shop and like not even care about like taking a trolley out or anything like that. I think like in future like everybody will be pure witness their social distant and like be so precautious about everything, and like it will be where it used to be at all ever.
And people will probably be more aware of their hygiene as well. I would hope so. When you think back on like how manky some people are, but like obviously, but obviously, like people are going to be more cautious on health and stuff as well. But seeing like other aspects of it, I think that people are just a lot more grateful as well, because like it's pure shook everybody up and gave everybody like a big fight, and obviously it affected a lot of people.
It's good for the climate as well.
That's true.
It's good for the climate. I can take your time. Aye. It'll maybe affect the say like people will be more aware about climate change and pollution and stuff. Because
aware about everything.
Aware about everything. Aye.
Yeah.
Look, I think everybody's just moving forward.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the direction of the human race?
It's gone down the way, I think. Well, numbers are increasing and everything else is decreasing.
Do you think people have always thought that way about the time that about the era in which they've lived, or do you think?
I don't know. I think. I mean, maybe. I suppose I can only talk about the era that I've got experience of, but I don't know. Like a lot of hope, maybe perhaps in the 60s, that kind of thing, when all the flower power. But no, I mean, there's always good and bad. I just think at the moment there's certainly a lot of bad, and it's hard to avoid, really.
Is it safe to say that you're probably not optimistic about the direction of the human race?
No, I am optimistic. I think the whole crisis makes you steer into your own instincts about what you believe in, and fundamentally I'm an optimistic person.
Privacy has changed a lot. Yeah. I feel like there's a lot of things I worry about in the future, like almost everything. Yeah. But at the same time, there's like possibilities and everything as well. Like something good could happen, and it could turn out to something else. Yeah. So it's a.
So do you think it's fair to say that governmental regulations or intervention are quite important and as far as technology is concerned in the coming years?
Yeah, I'm kind of worried about that. I think our right to privacy is totally, basically dissolved now. And it's actually really interesting because with the coup this past week in the US, insurrection, whatever you want to call it, there was, they were using this app called Parler or Parlay or whatever, and it got shut down, but not before it was able to be hacked, and all of the information from it that was supposed to be secure, all of the deleted messages that weren't actually deleted, all of these like account informations and like security verifications with people's like actual IDs and their like addresses and things, all of that was hacked and is now like available to the FBI, who can now track the insurrectionists. But this is still like a hugely alarming incident for privacy and our online security, and yeah, slightly freaking out. But yeah, I don't know. I remember as well, like in the San Bernardino shooting a long time ago, there was this huge like legal battle to get into the people's iPhones, and they were locked with whatever Apple security is, which I think is like pretty good. And I can't actually remember the outcome of that, but there's this sort of, in some cases, security is important more so than privacy, but that like boundary is really hard to navigate. And I think a lot of times it's going far closer to like violating privacy in it for overreaches in the sense of security. So
That's where you think morality comes from.
What, the way people's morals and well, I think if more people followed, had a faith like Jesus, I think things would be a lot better. I do.
Have you ever been part of a situation where you undertook revenge on someone?
No, don't believe in it.
No, I've been very lucky. My mum takes good care of me. We've had a good life together, so.
I think a lot of people kind of felt like that. A lot of people that I've seen have like just kind of felt let down like by the government and such. But at the end of the day, it's like everything kind of happens for a reason as well. You know, you can't control anything. I feel like everybody's kind of had that moment when they feel like that. But I felt like that plenty of times. Like I struggle with mental health and stuff, and sometimes I've sat there and I've been like, "Oh, this is horrible. I've got the worst life ever." But see, when I get out of that, you know, I realise that like I'm not even that hard done by. It's just something that I just need to deal with. Like people have it so much worse than me, and I just got on it and I end up fine, and then it happens again. Yeah. But.
And like feeling resentful and stuff, like I don't think I'd ever feel resentful, because like it's just like these situations you can just get over, like you know, like that affect your whole future. Like you think about a 2-minute situation, like 10 years later you can still like let it eat away at your brain, but there's no point in it because it's a 2-minute situation, you're still letting it affect you. So
I know.
I think no, but don't be resentful, just move on.
Exactly.
Build a bridge.
Even if it's hard. Like, I know.
Even if it's hard, just get on with it.
I think people obviously that have kind of been lost their jobs and everything as well due to it, they would have felt very resentful, kind of like maybe angry at like obviously like their work and stuff and the government and stuff. So I feel horrible. I'm very grateful that we've not been in that situation.
So I'm glad I've been able to work and stuff. Like when there's certain things that you think about and you're like, oh, like this is horrible. There's always somebody that's a person.
Like worse off, you need to remember that.
Definitely.
The meaning of life. 42.
The meaning of life, isn't it 42? What's the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy? Anyway, the meaning of life, I think there's two ways. You bring people into the world, you've got to give them opportunity and do as much for them as you can. And then I think in terms of society, I want to live in a society that's fair, where people are treated fairly and where they've got opportunities.
Like Exxon knew about the effects of fossil fuels in the 70s and buried those findings and continued this sort of path of destruction so people could make lots of money. And I know that a lot of these, like the use of plastic and the use of fossil fuels and things is so ingrained in the way that we do things, and I think the way, like the when we could have changed that is so far in the past that that generation kind of ruined it for us. And so I do feel a little bit of resentment there. But I also feel like quite a lot of hope about our generation and like icons like Greta Thunberg and the massive Extinction Rebellion protests that we've been having and stuff. Other than, again, frustrated that we are out yelling for this, demanding something, and nothing is actually really changing. So, yeah.
Cars, people driving. We need to stop doing that.
A lot of people get sucked into using social media a bit overly, and it's kind of more important than their real life. You know what I mean? They kind of create a false life and a real life, and they're through images and whatever they're posting and sharing. I use a lot of it through photography and stuff, but apart from that, I try and limit sharing to like once a day and stuff like that, instead of just everything I see, just sharing it.
Do you think through social media it's given you quite a lot of good opportunities for
Definitely, yeah. Definitely for getting stuff like wedding clients and print sales, and they're few and far between now, but still do generate some money business through it, but not all that much. Word of mouth.
Since COVID, what's been your most sort of popular type of request for clients?
Nothing really, because my sole income was for photography was wedding work. So I'm not really. All I've been doing is delaying stuff for next year that I had booked. Probably anything I've made money from is print sales at Edinburgh, and that's normally American clients through my shop, online shop.
Being away from my family's been hard, but it's exciting still. So.
Are they down in Brighton?
No, they're still in Spain, and they're in South Africa as well. We're pretty spread out.
Yeah, cool. Do you go to South Africa often, or?
Not anymore. I haven't been in 4 or 5 years.
And if you could say advise your say your 18-year-old self, what would you say to them?
That's a really good question. You know, the business opportunities in this world are centred around places, and it would be to find those places as early as you can and make your way in life. And incidentally, that might have meant for the business I was in, that might have meant leaving Scotland earlier in my life.
So what would you think those places were then, and what do you think those places are now? Have this changed?
So there are about, in my opinion, there are 10 or 12 great cities in the world which are magnets for commerce, and I've mentioned some of them already. London is one of them. There are then other places, and Edinburgh is one of them, where there are great opportunities in specific areas of business and in specific areas of the economy. And so here, financial services and fund management is one of them. For example, not a business I'm in, but if you're in that, this is a great place to be, to make your way in that industry and also have a great lifestyle.
I think in the US, I was pretty privileged to have an education that was critical of a lot of the history of the US, the fact that it was founded on slavery, on the genocide of Native Americans, and all of these like truly horrendous incidents and practices that are still affecting people to this day. So having had that sort of knowledge or education is really important.
I belong to Jesus. I belong to the family of Jesus.
How long ago was it that you felt this inclination towards Christianity? say you're happier now than you
Oh
were?
yes, far happier, far happier. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And do you feel as though when you meet, say, atheists or when you meet agnostic people that do you feel like you can relate to them less, or do you feel as though there's do you sometimes just see something in them that you think that would improve their lives if they had a more spiritual life or anything? Or is there something you think? Is there something you can tell me about?
Well, you do meet atheists or other religions. You just have to. I mean, you can't just preach. That doesn't work. You know, you can sit and chat and say that Jesus loves you. Doesn't matter, you know, what you've done. That you can go to Him and He will help you. That's all you can do, and it's up to God really to open their eyes to it, and that there is a different way of living.
I don't know. You can visit my photography page if you like. It's Edinburgh HD on Facebook and edinburghhd.co.uk.
It was nice to meet you. I've not really met anyone in Scotland yet, so it's exciting to talk to somebody again.
If you're asking me about what were the lessons I learned in my life that I'd pass on to somebody, I'd say, you know, find your passion and actually be good at it. And that might mean that you find something you're good at and become passionate about it. There are two ways to look at that. People who tell you to follow your dreams, that doesn't tend to be something that's connected to the reality of how you put food on the table and how you look after your family and things like that. So find something you're really good at and be passionate at it, or find your passion and get really good at it.
Well, it's been a kind of like a moment, hasn't it? I was only going off to get my curry.
Just always be happy.
Be grateful.
Be grateful, be
Be
happy.
grateful.
Take
Be
every
safe.
moment as it comes. Take every day as it comes, and don't try and predict your future because you can't.